Well, last night we watched we watched interesting videos. We watched a couple of videos about this where Trump and Zelensky they met, and it's been described, depending on what you read, it's been described either as a shit show. Well, I think it's been described as a shit show by everybody, but it's been described as either Trump losing his temper and yelling at Zelensky, or it's been described as Zelensky acting like a spoiled brat and yelling at Trump. And if you watched my stream, you would see that like I kind of fall somewhere in the middle. Like I definitely think that Zelensky was being bullied. And so I think that Trump and Vance together were acting like bullies, but Zelensky was also acting like a bit of a spoiled brat. What we did not see the full context of the video. And I think that was important because J.D. Vance and Trump both, as I said last night, they took umbrage. They took umbrage with Zelensky's behavior, which I did not find all that off-putting. But again, we didn't see the full thing. So I wanted to try and watch some of this video to see if we can get more context around that.
Well, thank you very much. It's an honor to have President Zelensky of Ukraine.
Let me know how the volume is.
And we've been working very hard, very close. So we've actually known each other for a long time. We've been dealing with each other for a long time and very well. We had a little negotiation spat, but that worked out great. I think for both countries, I think for the world, actually, beyond both countries. And we have something that is a very fair deal. And we look forward to getting in and digging.
Guessing that this was the start?
Getting some of the rare earth, but it means we're going to be inside, and it's a big commitment from the United States, and we appreciate working with you very much. And we will continue to do that.
I would like to think this is
some very good discussions with Russia. I spoke with President Putin, and we're going to try and bring this to a close. It's something that you want and that he wants. We have to negotiate a deal. But we've started the confines of a deal, and I think something can happen. The big thing is the number of soldiers, mostly
give Zelensky a minute.
Soldiers being killed. We're losing thousands of soldiers
give him
on
a
both
chance.
sides. We're losing a lot of soldiers, and we want to see it stop. And we want to see the money get put to different kinds of use, like rebuilding. And we're going to be working very hard. But we've had a lot of very good conversations. And we'll say until we came along, the Biden administration didn't speak to Russia whatsoever. They didn't speak to anybody. They just allowed this to continue. And I will say that, I'll say in front of you, you've heard me say it 1,000 times, if I were president, this war would have never happened. We would have had a deal negotiated for you without having to go.
Trump could word that better. He is president. I know what he means. He means if I was president when this war started, the war would have never started. I get that, but okay.
Through what you've gone through. But your soldiers have been unbelievably brave. We've given them great equipment, but somebody has to use the equipment. They've been unbelievably brave.
All right, this is where I'm going to make use of a feature that I use sometimes on YouTube, where we play we're gonna play this a little quicker because Trump's just kind of
this was supposed to be over very quickly, and here we are 3 years later. So I give tremendous credit to your generals and your soldiers and yourself in the sense that
so far no big deal.
It's been
right?
Very hard fighting, very tough fighting. They're great fighters, and you have to be very proud of them from that standpoint. But now we want to get it over with. It's enough. Right, if we want to get it over with.
Oh, look at Trump being like, oh, that's enough. That's enough.
For coming. We're going to sign the agreement at the conference in the East Room in a little while, right after lunch. And we'll be having lunch together. We're also discussing some other things. And we appreciate everybody being here. It's somewhat of an exciting moment, but the really exciting moment is when
we're going to go up
when
to
they stop the shooting and we end up with the
5.
deal. And I think we're fairly close to getting that. And an honor to have you. And please, I'd like to say something.
No, thanks so much, Mr. President.
Thank
you for
Zelensky's going to speak, so we're going to listen to this at regular speed. Let me back up for a second. Okay, let's hear what now. When we started listening yesterday, we picked up like right in the middle of something Zelensky was saying. I mean, it was basically mid-sentence. So I don't know how much what happened before that, but apparently, Trump and Vance both seemed offended and felt like Zelensky should have thanked them. So let's see if we can, maybe this is the context we were kind of missing.
To say something.
Yeah, thank you so much, Mr. President. Thank you for invitation. And really, I hope that this document...
No, wait a minute. Wait.
And yeah, thank you so much, Mr. President.
So look, one of the criticisms of J.D. Vance was, well, you haven't said thank you one time during this meeting. Well, Zelenskyy just did. Now, granted, it wasn't for what J.D. Vance was talking about, but he did say thank you.
Thank you for invitation. And really, I hope that this first document will be first step to real security guarantees for Ukraine, our people, our children. I really count on it. And of course, we count that America will not stop support. Really, for us, it's very important to support and to continue it. I want to discuss it with details further during our...
Wait.
America will not stop support. I really count to real that this... Thank you for invitation. And really, I hope that this further during our conversation, and of course the infrastructure or security guarantees, because for today I understand what Europe is ready to do, and of course I want to discuss with you what United States will be ready to do, and I really count on your strong position to stop Putin. And you
see right there he says, I really count on your strong position to stop Putin. So Zelenskyy is basically saying, I can't do this without you. And I think we all know that he can't do this without the U.S. Maybe it's fair to say he can't do it without the U.S. or Europe. Maybe that's fair. But yeah, he can't do it on his own. I don't think that is any kind of mystery or any kind of gotcha. We all know that. We all know.
Said that enough with the war. I think that is very important, Ben, to say these words to Putin at the very beginning of war, because he is a killer and terrorist. But I hope that together we can stop him. But for us, it's very important to, to save our country, our values, our freedom, and democracy, and of course, no compromises with the killer about our territories. But it will be later.
So there you have, there's Zelenskyy right there saying no compromises with a killer about our territories. Who is he? This is where Vance and Trump, this is what I think this is part of why they were upset. Because who is Zelenskyy to say that? Honestly. Who is Zelenskyy to dictate what compromises there will or will not be? He's in no position to say that. He's not. So I get why the president and vice president of the United States, I get why they were upset.
And of course, what I wanted, we spoke about it by phone with you about the drones production. We have very good drones production. I think the best one in the world for today because of the war. Yes.
So Zelenskyy is saying that in Ukraine, he believes they have what is the best drone production in the world because of the war, which means because of the United States. Or, let's be fair, because of the help the United States and Europe have given him. I don't think that Ukraine has the best drone production in the world because of the innovations of the Ukrainian people. And that is not a slight to the Ukrainian people. I know a few Ukrainian people. They are very nice people. One of my good friends, the guy who helped me buy this house, the realtor, he didn't help me buy it, but he was the realtor. Good friend I've known over 20 years, Ukrainian guy. So this is not a slight to Ukrainian people, but to say that Ukraine arrived at the best drone production in the world by themselves and that the Ukrainian people picked themselves up by the bootstraps and made it happen on their own, that's simply not true.
And of course, we need very much the air defense. You have the best air defense in the world.
Yes,
and really, you helped us under attacks of Russians. And I want to speak how we can exchange the licenses. We're open to share the licenses of all our drones with you, of course, with the United States. And we need...
Okay, so maybe I was wrong. Maybe I'm wrong. So Ukraine is sitting here. He's saying we share the licenses, where it sounds like Zelenskyy wants some type of exchange where he shares the licenses of the... Maybe it's of the drone technology to the U.S., and the U.S. in exchange gives them air defense. What is like? Are Ukrainians known for drone production? I've never heard about that. But I mean, I'm just a programmer, so why would I have heard?
Licenses for quick production of air defense. Even after the war, we need our nation to be calm, that we are secure. So that's why we need this air shield. And of course, about this, I want to speak about the...
Okay, so Ukraine drone production tops 2.5 million a year. Ukraine is on track to manufacture 2.5 million military drones in 2025. That's not the limit, and it's not the limit. Okay, they're producing about 200,000 drones a month. The heavy majority of which are kamikaze first-person view drones carrying anti-tank munition and anti-personnel grenade. You know, eventually wars are going to be fought by people in a computer room operating heavy machinery, right? Like that's all it's going to be eventually. Because you think about, okay, well, this drone is designed to take out a tank. Well, what about the poor people in the tank? Well, do you really need somebody in the tank? Like, yeah, I guess, you know, that would probably be ideal in a strategic point of view, but I would imagine that a remotely controlled tank would get you 80% of the same results that a manned tank would get you. That's just a guess. I don't know. Again, I'm just a programmer. What do I know? Ukraine producers were delivering about 20,000 dish-sized plate quadcopters, but increased the investment spike. Okay, maybe I'm wrong. It sounds like I didn't know Ukrainians really... Ukrainian President Zelenskyy on Saturday led a tour. Okay, head of military, secret Kiev underground facility. All right. Well, maybe Ukrainians did. Maybe the Ukrainian drone manufacturing is something that Ukrainians have done on their own with minimal help. Okay. All right, let's assume that's the case. I'm going to try my best to assume the good things.
Intelligence, I think that France and UK already spoke to you, and we know that Europe is ready, but without the United States, they will not be ready to be as strong as we need. And
okay, you heard that. So he's basically saying that without the United States, if all the help that Ukraine has is just Europe, that they're not going to be as strong as they need to be. That's coming from Zelenskyy. That's not me. So that tells me that the U.S. holds a lot of cards there.
And the last point, last not least, about exchange, about our people and children. And you know that these crazy Russians, that they stolen 20,000 of children, Ukrainian children. They changed their names. They changed their families, relatives, and now they're in.
So one thing I have noticed, and this was something I noticed last night, and I know that I will probably get called a Russian propagandist for this. I just have a feeling that this statement I'm about to make will not go over well. But there seems to be a big effort by Zelenskyy to demonize the Russian people as a whole. Look, I get it if you want to demonize Putin. That I understand. But in the language that Zelenskyy uses, it's we need to make Russia as a whole our enemy. Whereas I think Zelenskyy would have a better argument or a better case if he was saying we need to, like, Putin is really who we're fighting. Like, because from what I understand, this war isn't even very popular in Russia, right? From like anecdotal things I've read on the internet, this isn't a very popular war in Russia. So the Russian people really don't want it. I doubt the Ukrainian people want it. So, but anyway, the point is Zelenskyy kind of, I don't know. I'm not a big fan of trying to demonize the enemy as a whole, to try and like assume that everybody who is in that collective is an evil person or a crazy person, as he said. All right, let's continue.
They changed their families, relatives, and now they're in Russia. We want to bring them back, and really, it's a big dream, task, and goal for me, and our warriors. By the way, Mr. President, we released more than 4,000 warriors from Russian prison, but there are thousands more in the prison. I wanted to share with you some images. How it's I've just can I now?
Yeah,
Have I?
please.
All right. So he's going to share images. I don't know what these are images of, and I don't want to. Now this video is on YouTube, but okay. I guess we're gonna play it. We're gonna live dangerously. We're gonna live dangerously and just show the videos. Let's see what happens.
One minute. Adjust you to understand in what circumstances, in what situation they are, and what the attitude of Russia to our prisoners.
All right. So again, this is more demonization of Russia. This is like Zelenskyy really wants to convince Trump that Trump needs to not so much help Ukraine defend Ukraine, but that Trump needs to really go after Russia. That's what this is starting to feel like. This is starting to feel like Zelenskyy wants to go on the offensive, and he wants Trump to back him on the offensive. Whereas we, the United States, entered this as a defensive measure.
Prisoners, that guys, just you before and after. And you see before and after, just you to understand.
All right,
now,
so
thousands of
what is
such
this,
guys,
prisoners of war?
ladies and men, there, and that, so they don't eat, they beat them, and they, so they do a lot of, bad things.
Okay, so people, big surprise. There are prisoners of war, and bad things are happening to them as they're prisoners of war. This is what happens in war, and this is why we want to avoid war. Also, I don't think I am really trying to defend Ukraine here. Or Zelenskyy. I am really trying to come at this from the point of view of having sympathy for Zelenskyy. I am trying to have, that's a good way of putting it. I am trying to have sympathy for Zelenskyy, but it's really difficult when he's painting a broad brush of Russia. And can you say, do you think that there are no Russian soldiers in Ukraine who haven't had bad things happen to them? Is that what we're expected to believe, that everybody, that the prisoners of war that were caught by Ukraine are in nice king size beds with Protege sheets? I don't think so. I suspect probably not.
So out of, even during the war, there are rules. Everybody knows there are rules during the war.
Okay, now I believe this is about where we started, but maybe not. Let's see.
Guys, they don't have any rules. You see that? 50s.
This is also a ridiculous sentiment. The fact that there are rules during war. I know there's Geneva Conventions and everybody decided to play the same, if we got to play the same war RPG, then we need to have set rules with the art. No, there's no rules in war. There's just not. We like to fool ourselves. I think if anything, the rules are just a tool to kind of be look what they're doing. Look what they're doing. Okay, well, they're cheating, so it's okay if we're cheating too. And now, instead of now we got to move the goalpost. Now we get to move the goalpost of what we wanted in order to end this war because they're cheating. That's the only purpose that these rules serve.
60 kilograms left and a lot of such things. And I didn't want to show you what the changes with images of children, because I will share with you. And it's looking tragic.
Okay, but again, this is not a judgment on Ukraine. This is a judgment on Zelensky, and I feel like this is an appeal to emotion. That's all this is. This is a play on emotions, and honestly, it feels manipulative. It does. Like, you can sit there and you can just say, like, Russia's doing horrible things to our people and it needs to stop. Great. Showing these pictures, this is a play by Zelensky to be like, okay, we really need to oust Russia. We either I'm not sure what his end goal is. But I do not believe that his goal stops with, we need to win our territory back. It feels like this is something bigger. It feels like he wants to be a tough guy and not just kick Russia out of Ukrainian territory, but maybe wants something else, like maybe to oust Putin, or maybe have America come in and help with an offensive to regain some territory that was probably lost 100 years ago. I don't know. But there's more to this. This just feels really manipulative.
I wanted very much to give you, and you see it.
Yeah.
This is pastor, by the way. They stolen pastors because it's not Russian church. They stolen pastors and moved pastors to the prison. We, at the end of last year, we brought 3 pastors, and we could exchange them. And this is pastor.
And what do you think happened? I mean, with those Russian pastors, were the Russian, like, let's see if we can look it up. Let's see. Ukraine, Russia exchange pastors. Okay, 2 priests among prisoner exchange between Ukraine and Russia. Ukrainian President Zelensky said 2 Ukrainian Greek Catholic priests were taken captive in Moscow. In Moscow-occupied Berdyansk, were handed back to Ukraine thanks to a mediation of the Vatican. The priests were among dozens of captured soldiers and civilians they had exchanged earlier this week. Meanwhile, Russia said a high-ranking Ukrainian Orthodox clerk was handed over to Moscow along with 2 other priests. So there was an exchange. I mean, it looks so. Okay, there was a high-ranking Ukrainian Orthodox cleric was handed over to Moscow. Berdyansk fell to Russian forces. The priests have been held by Russians since November 16th. He said Pope Francis earlier this year. So, I mean, they exchanged prisoners. Moscow's ombudsman Tatiana Masuk. This is a bit of a tangent, but Tatiana Moskulov, that's just kind of a sexy name. I mean, it just is. Oh, look at her. Look, Tatiana Moskulov. Oh, yeah. She said 2 other Orthodox priests who remained with Moscow's patriarchy when the church split were also handed over to Russia in the course of exchange. So it's just it's a play to emotion, boys. That's all it is.
Yeah, that's tough.
Yeah. So I mean, this I wanted to show you, and this. So thank you very much.
We want to get that ended, right?
Yeah. Of course. We
And I
want.
think we will.
And look, and I think Trump gets it. Like, Trump kind of understands what's happening. We want to get that ended, right? And Zelensky said, "Oh yeah, of course." Okay, that's unfair characterization, but Trump's not like, "Oh, that's horrible. We need to do something about that." Trump is just like, we want this to stop, and which I think is reasonable.
We will. And
We have to, of course.
do you have any questions, please?
Mr. President. Thank you, Mr. President. With the, how much money is the U.S. going to put into the fund that is being created today, and how does this provide long-term security for Ukraine?
Well, we don't know exactly how much, because we're going to be putting some money in a fund that we're going to get from the raw earth that we're going to be taking and sharing in terms of revenue. So it's going to be a lot of money will be made from the sale and from the use of
Okay,
raw
so this
earth.
is
And
about the
as you
raw,
know, our country doesn't have
raw
much raw
minerals
earth. We have a lot of oil
thing that I've
and
heard
gas,
about.
but we don't have a lot of the raw earth. And what we do have is protected by the environmentalists, but that could be unprotected. But still, it's not very much. They have among the best in the world in terms of raw earth. So we're going to be using that, using it for all of the things we do, including AI and including weapons and the military, and it's really going to very much satisfy our
I'm
needs.
asking AI what the deal is with the raw earth minerals. Now, this was a relatively recent. Okay, it's got it. Oh wow. As of March 1st, 2025, which is today, the U.S. and Ukraine have been negotiating a deal involving Ukraine's critical minerals, often referred to as rare earths, in discussions, though the focus extends beyond just blah, blah, blah. Okay, key features. Ukraine would contribute 50% of future revenues from state-owned mineral resources to a fund co-managed by the U.S. and Ukraine. The fund's purpose is to reinvest these proceeds into Ukraine's reconstruction, promoting safety, security, and prosperity. Unlike earlier drafts, this is not explicitly framed as repayment for past aid, but as a forward-looking economic partnership. The U.S. pledges a long-term financial commitment to Ukraine's stability and prosperity subject to U.S. law. However, specific security guarantees, something Ukraine has insisted on, remain vague or absent in the latest drafts, with language limited to supporting Ukraine's efforts to obtain such guarantees. So it sounds like we wanted to get some raw earth, some rare earth minerals from Ukraine, part of which was a fund, like that Ukraine would sell these and they would go to a proceed, which is not explicitly seen as repayment, but blah, blah, blah. But also, in exchange, Ukraine wanted a commitment from the U.S. for security, something Ukraine has insisted on. So in order for us to get these rare earth minerals, we must protect Ukraine, which I suppose is, I guess I don't hate that idea, but it, oh man, Okay, shift from earlier proposals. Initial U.S. demands under the Trump administration were more aggressive, seeking 50% ownership of Ukraine's mineral deposits or $500 billion in mineral wealth as compensation for past aid. Ukraine. Okay, so this says estimate 124 to 183, which is far less than Trump's claim of 350 to 500 billion. Now, I wonder, Trump might be extrapolating. Trump might be counting other things that were adjacent to aid towards the aid. I wonder. We can look at to that another time. Zelenskyy rejected these, arguing that it amounted to selling his country, which I think is fair, right? You know, you're going to give ownership of your raw materials to another country. I get why Zelenskyy wouldn't want to do that. The current framework reflects a compromise, focusing on revenue sharing and investment. So challenges and obstacles. So Russia occupies a significant mineral-rich region. Data on Ukraine's reserves is outdated. So there are, there's some things. But it sounds like Ukraine is trying to, I don't think Ukraine has a lot of leverage. And they're trying to use what leverage they do have, which is these rare earth minerals. They're trying to use that for security guarantees from the U.S., which honestly, if a more sinister plan, the U.S. could just go in and take them. I don't think anybody on the international stage would like that, but, who's going to stop us?
It was something that just worked out really well. We have a lot of oil, and we have a lot of gas, but we don't have raw earth. So this has just about every component of the raw earth that we need for computers, for all of the things we do. This puts us in great shape.
And long-term security for Ukraine. How does this provide?
I think they're going to have great luck. I think once we make the agreement, that's going to be 95% of it. They're not going to go back to fighting. I've spoken with President Putin, and I feel very strong. I've known him for a long time, and I feel very strongly that they're very serious about it. and we'll make a deal. And when the deal is made, I don't think we talk about security. Everyone's talking about the other day. All they talked about was security. I said, let me make the deal first. I have to make the deal first. I don't worry about security right now. We have to have a deal, because right now, last week, 2,000 soldiers died on both sides. 2,000.
Okay, so
and they're losing.
what it sounds to me, and this makes sense. Trump does not want to promise security while there is a war raging, right? Because that's basically saying well, if he did that, that would be the U.S. saying, oh, we're going to carry on this war, defending you because Russia continues to attack and we've agreed to defend you, so we have to. No, this makes sense. Trump wants a ceasefire first and then security guarantees next, which, yes, okay, let's get stability, let's get peace in the region, and once we've established peace, we'll continue, we will pledge to protect that peace as opposed to pledging to protect the war, so to speak. I get it. That makes sense.
1,000, 2,000, 3,000 a week. So as we sit here and we talk, people are getting shot and dying on the battlefield.
Yeah.
And, they're not American soldiers, but they're Russian soldiers and they're Ukrainian soldiers, and we want to be able to stop it.
Now, see, this is interesting, and this is where people, there's lots of reasons people are going to give Trump crap, but I think this is one because Trump is sympathetic. He is expressing sympathy towards not just the Ukrainian soldiers, but the Russian soldiers. Because you have people who are fighting on both sides that don't want to be there. Like, do you think, I'm sure there are some maniacs fighting that actually do want to be there and like get off on it. But I would imagine that the majority of people fighting on the front lines, they don't want to be there. They're doing it because they have no choice. And I think, whereas what we saw from Zelenskyy, it was a demonization of the Russian people. Like, they're all maniacs. Look what they're doing to our pastors. Look what they're doing to our children. Like, but just ignore what Ukraine's doing to them in retaliation. Just look at what they're doing to us. Whereas Trump is like, no, there's people on both sides of this. I think that's reasonable.
And we want to be able also to spend money on other things. We don't want to, this is a tremendous amount of money. And what the Biden administration did was terrible. They were giving money, but he had no security on the money. Europe, as you know, gave much less money, but they had security. It was in the form of a loan. They get their money back, and we didn't. And now, at least we're protected because the American taxpayer has to be protected too. But
yes,
this is an incredible agreement for Ukraine because we have a big investment in their country now, and what they have, very few people have. And we're able to really go forward with very, very high-tech things and many other things, including weaponry that we're going to use in many locations, but that we need for our country.
All right.
This allows us to do
I don't hate it.
I'm sorry.
Yes, go ahead, please.
If I can just, yes. In the document, there is one of the very important points. If we speak about business,
okay. I'm trying to guess what this very important point is going to be. It's going to be, I don't know. It's going to be shafting Russia no matter what, though.
Investment. We never had LNG terminals in Ukraine. This document will open. The next document, but anyway, here we see in the framework, we see really goodwill for this. LNG terminals for us is very important, and I think for security of European continent. We have the biggest storage, gas storage. We have the biggest in Europe. Yes, and we can use it. Use it for LNG. Use it for LNG, and we will do it. And really, we can help Europe because Europe really helped. President Trump said that they made less support, but they are our friends and they are our very supportive partners. They really gave a lot, Mr. President. They did.
They gave a lot, but they gave much less.
No.
Much less.
No.
You're talking about Europe?
No. Okay.
All right. So the friendly disagreement, a friendly disagreement on whether, I guess it was Europe he was talking about who gave money. If it is true that the money European countries gave was a loan as opposed to the donation that the U.S. gave, then I think it is fair to say the U.S. gave much more, right? If my buddy David and I, if we give money to a homeless person, but David is giving him $100 as a loan, and then I'm just giving it to him just to give it to him, is David, I mean, honestly, I'm giving more because David's getting it back. So at the end, David is made whole. He's given zero. Me, I'm in the hole by a negative $100. So yeah, no. If that's true, then what Zelenskyy is saying is BS.
Mr. President Trump, you have repeatedly called the deal with Ukraine as a historical one. And as a president of the United States, you make historical decisions in other issues which affect America and other world.
Yes.
So what place in the world history do you want to take? And do you associate yourself with any famous historical figures?
Yeah, I'd say George.
He's getting ready to say George Washington, and he's going to say Abraham Lincoln. Oh, Trump is going to associate himself with George Washington and Abraham Lincoln. I would have guessed George Washington, but we won't count that. But I bet you Abraham Lincoln. Let's see.
George Washington, Abraham Lincoln. I would say I'm
Teddy
far
Roosevelt?
superior to George Washington and Abraham Lincoln.
Oh,
Now, you know I'm only kidding, right? Because when I say that, the fake
He's
news is going to go
superior.
wild. They're going to say
He's
he considers
superior to
himself
George
be better than
Washington and Abraham Lincoln.
You never
Oh,
know.
my God.
You never know. I don't compare myself to anybody. I'm here to do
I
a
mean,
job.
he just did.
We've had a great 35 days or whatever it might be, a month, a little more than a month. We've accomplished tremendous amounts. Not only this would be a very great achievement if we could get the war stopped and get them back to normalization. I think that's going to happen. We've had very good talks on both sides, as you know, but I think we've done a very good job, just generally. If you look at all of the things we've done in 30 days, they're saying there's never been a opening for a president. The first month, there's never been a first month like we've had. And this
Yes.
is one of the very important things.
It's the greatest first month ever. Greatest first month. Amazing, Trump-tastic first month.
To me is one of the most important things because we have tremendous death taking place as we speak, and I don't want to have that. You know, think of the parents, whether they're in Russia or Ukraine, think of the parents of all these people being killed needlessly.
They came to our territory.
Should have never started. This would have.
Wait.
They're in Russia, one of the most important things because we have tremendous death taking place as we speak.
Okay.
And I don't want to have that. You know, think of the parents, whether they're in Russia or Ukraine, think of the parents of all these people being killed needlessly.
They came to our.
Look, so Trump is saying, oh my God, Zelenskyy, man. So Trump is saying, like, we have death everywhere. Like, we don't want death, whether it's Ukrainian or Russian death. We don't want people to be unalived, Russian or Ukrainian. And Zelensky's over here, well, hey, man, they came to our territory. We get it. But now we want it to end. And Zelensky's like, I think I am getting, between the video last night and today, I am getting the impression that Zelenskyy wants this. Like, I really feel like Zelenskyy wants this war. That is the impression I'm getting.
Should have never started. This would have, if I were president, this would.
Look at the face he's making. Like, he's like, oh, it should have never started. And Zelenskyy like, oh, whatever. Wow.
Never started.
Mr. President, where has Mr. President, will you continue sending military aid to Ukraine after the U.S. signs this agreement with Ukraine?
Yeah, we're
And the
gonna be
question
continuing.
to President Zelenskyy, do you feel like the U.S. is on your side, that the President Trump is on your side?
Oh, do you feel like the U.S. is on your side? Oh.
At this moment?
Right.
What do you think?
He wants to know, do you think that, sort of a stupid question. I guess we wouldn't be here if I wasn't.
I think that the United States on our side from the very beginning of occupation.
Yes.
And I think that President Trump on our side, and of course, I'm sure that United States President will not stop support. This is crucial for us. It's important for us. Yes.
I wouldn't be
And
so sure
Putin,
about
the
that,
president
Zelensky.
speaks about the people and the soldiers which are dying, but they came to our territory. They came to our land. They began this war, and they have to stop. And I think this is the question, with really the most important question. Can President Trump, I hope yes, with some other allies, to stop Putin, withdraw these enemies, our enemy, withdraw these troops from our land? And
No. There's going to be concession. And I think this is a big point. I think this is what upsets Zelensky. I think Trump, I'm just going to say it. Because it's not the United States, it's not very consequential to Trump and to the United States as a whole if Russia gains a little bit of territory from Ukraine. And I think Trump is willing to say, okay, this is yours and this is yours, but the killing stops today. You can have these 5,000 million square miles, but the killing stops today. Whereas Zelensky doesn't want to give up a single foot of Ukrainian territory, which I get. But again, Ukraine is not a military peer with Russia. It's just not.
And I think that you asked about the history, I think that if President, or when he will stop Putin, if President Trump will bring peace to our country, I think he will be on this wall. I think.
We've had very, very good.
Why would Zelensky, man. Zelensky. That's a very arrogant thing to say. Like Ukraine, I don't even want to say it, but I do not I think that Zelensky thinks Ukraine is more important to the U.S. than it actually is. I'll just say it like that. That's how I'll say it.
Good talks.
Military aid to Ukraine.
President Zelensky just said that there would be no compromises with Vladimir Putin. I just wanted to ask both of you. Firstly, are there compromises that you think that President Zelensky is going to have to make? And President Zelensky, is there anything that you might be thinking that you may be able to offer or bring to the table,
Yes.
for example, elections?
There will be compromises on
I
both
think you're going
sides.
to have to always make compromises.
Yep.
You can't do any deals without compromises.
And Zelensky's not going to like that.
So certainly he's going to have to make some compromises, but hopefully they won't be as big as some people think you're going to have to make. That's all. That's all we can do. I'm here as an arbitrator, as a mediator to a certain extent between two parties that have been very hostile, to put it mildly. They've been very hostile. There's been a vicious war. There's been a vicious war. You know, it's a very level battlefield, and those bullets go out, and as I've said many times, we were talking about it with Pete, many times the only thing stopping those bullets is a human body. And in the case we're talking about, generally young human bodies are stopping a lot of bullets. It's dead level. That's why it's great farmland. It's great land. It's great farmland, but there's very little protection against the bullets that are being, and other things that are being shot. So all I can do is see if I can get everybody at the table and get an agreement. And I think we're going to end up with an agreement. Otherwise, I wouldn't probably be even here today.
Mr. President, I've got two questions for you. You think ultimately your legacy will be the peacemaker and
Look at Zelensky. Zelensky looks pissed. He looks pissed. No, that's not happening. He has this face like, yeah, that's not happening. We're not signing any deal if we have to give up land. And it's like, dude, I'm sorry, but it's not really up to you. I mean, I guess to some extent it is. Like, he can keep fighting, but it's not going to be with U.S. resources.
not the president that led this country into another war and ended foreign wars? And I've got a question.
I hope it will. I mean, I hope I'm going to be remembered as a peacemaker.
All right, this is more about Trump's legacy.
This would be a great thing if we could do this. I'm doing this to save lives more than anything else. Second is to save a lot of money, but I consider that to be far less important. So I hope I'm going to thank you, Brian, for that question. It was a nice question. I hope I'll be known and recognized as a peacemaker. This would be a great
question
thing to
where he
solve.
can
This is
talk
a
about
very
himself is a nice
dangerous
question.
situation. You know, this could lead to a third world war. This was headed in the wrong direction. If this election were lost, and we didn't win this election, and by the way, we won it by a lot. That was a mandate. We won every swing state. We won the popular vote by millions and
All right,
millions
come
of votes.
on,
We won
Trump.
everything. The districts, you look at the areas of red,
Come
take a look at
on.
a map. This was a big mandate, and this was one of the things. I said, we're going to get this thing settled. If we didn't win, I think this could have very well ended up in a third world war, and that would not have been a good situation. What was your second
Yeah, my
question?
second question for President Zelensky. Why don't you wear a suit? You're the highest, why don't you wear a suit? You're the highest
Why
level
don't you wear a
in this
suit?
country's office, and
That's
you
a
refuse to
dumb
wear a suit.
question.
Just want to see if you own a suit?
Yeah, problems.
A lot of Americans have problems with you not
Really?
respecting
I
the
don't have
dignity of this
such.
office.
I will wear a costume after this war will finish.
Okay.
Yes, maybe one.
Maybe something like this.
something like
Yes,
yours.
sir.
Yes.
That'd be great.
Maybe something better. I don't know. We will see. Maybe something cheaper than. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
President Trump, thank you, President Trump. You said yesterday that you have.
Are you going to send more arms to Ukraine in case there's no peace?
Yeah, we're going to have arms to Ukraine, yeah, sure. Hopefully I won't have to send very much because hopefully we're going to have it finished. We're looking forward to finishing this quickly. We're not looking forward to sending a lot of arms. We're looking forward to getting the war finished so we can do other things. But we very much appreciate the agreement because we needed what they had, and we're treating, our country is now treated fairly. Biden didn't do that. He didn't know what the hell he was doing. This should have never happened. This should have never started. But,
Any chance to badmouth
sure, the
Biden?
answer is yes,
Oh,
but
he
hopefully we
will
won't have to
take
send
that.
much because I'm looking forward to getting it done quickly, very quickly. Done. You fall into the same trap like everybody else. A million times you say it over and over. I want to get the
All
deal
right,
done.
so-
Security is so easy. That's about 2% of the problem. I'm not
So
worried about
the
security.
impression I'm
worried about getting the
getting,
deal done.
it's
The
not-
security is the easy part. Security is very nice. Everybody stopped shooting. And now will Europe put people there? I know France is going to. I know the UK is going
You
to.
really can,
I know
from the
other
body
countries are
language
going
that
to, and they happen to be
Zelensky
right
has,
next door.
you really
We haven't
can
committed, but we
kind
can
of get,
conceivably. We have
you get the
security in a
impression
different
that
form. We'll have workers there digging.
maybe
taking
I'm
the
reading too much into
raw
things.
earth
Am I reading?
so that we
I
can create a
might
lot
be
of
reading
great
too much
product
into it.
in this country. So in that sense, you have something,
don't
but
know.
we haven't determined that yet. I will say, in speaking to France and in speaking to, and they were here, as you know, last week and just the other day, they have committed to a lot of security. I don't think you're going to need much security. I think once this deal gets done, it's over. Russia's not going to want to go back, and nobody's going to want to go back. When this deal ends,
Zelensky's sitting there shaking his head. He was literally shaking his head no. But
committed to a lot of security. I don't think you're going to need much security. I think once this deal gets done, it's over. Russia's not going to want to go back, and nobody's going to want to go back.
I think when this deal is done, it's over. And Zelensky's shaking his head no. So is that a no as in, it might sound weird, but is that like a negative confirmation? Like maybe he's agreeing? Or is he saying like, no, when this deal's done, we're still fighting, man. Like the fight continues. The struggle is real. Maybe.
When this deal ends, I really believe this deal is going to be over. Yeah, please go ahead. Go ahead.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. President, thank you. You had President Macron and Keir Starmer at the White House this past week, both of whom praised your courage and conviction to lead the pathway towards peace.
Yes.
Part of that involved, though, re-engaging Russia in diplomatic relations, something that previous leaders lacked, the conviction to do so. What gave you the moral courage and conviction to step forward and lead that?
Well, I love this guy. Who are you with?
American news, sir.
Well, that's why I like him. One American News does a great job. I like the question. I think it's a very good question. It's a pathway to peace. It's a pathway to getting something solved. And I feel that as the head of this country, I have an obligation to do that. Plus, we're very much involved. We got involved. It's too bad we got involved because there should have been no involvement, because there should have been no war. And there shouldn't have been October 7th. That would have never happened. As you know, Iran was broke. They had no money to give to Hezbollah. They had no money to give to Hamas. They were stone cold broke. And then under Biden, they became rich as hell. They went from no money to $300 billion in a period of 4 years.
That's a lot of
And they
money.
gave a lot of that money
I
away.
mean,
You see what happened. And
I'd
that's a
happily
real
take
mess
$300
also
billion.
that we hope to be able to solve. But no, I appreciate your question very much. I feel I have an obligation to try and do something to stop the death.
If I can,
That's
answer.
reasonable.
Yes, if I can answer, sorry. Please.
And I do like your clothing, by the way.
Yeah, really?
You and I think he's a great guy, by the way. But I don't know if you two like each other, but you know what?
More serious things than answer on such
Yeah, sure,
questions.
that's
I will
okay.
answer on more serious
That's a good
questions if I
statement.
can.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, so please, about security guarantees and about just ceasefire, We can't just speak about ceasefire and speak. It will not work. Just ceasefire will not never work, because I'm like a president. I have this experience, and not only me. Ukraine before my presidency, from the 2014, Putin.
I think this is where
25
it's going to go wrong.
25 times he broken his own signature. 25 times he broken ceasefire.
But he never broke to me. He never broke to me.
No, you were the president.
He
You were
never
the
broke-
president
he
during.
never broke to me.
In 2016, you've been the president, Mr. President. You've been the president, but he had, of course, not with you, but he had during those periods. He had conversations with our side. And we had Normandy format, the France, Germany, Ukraine, and Russia. And he broken 25 times. That's why we will never accept just ceasefire. It will not work without security guarantees.
Oh, and there it is. That's why we will never accept just ceasefire without security guarantees. So if there's no security guarantees, Ukraine's going to keep fighting. But he's going to keep fighting with whose military, whose equipment, whose money.
Security guarantees, maybe President is right about this document and other, but this document is not enough. Strong army is enough, because his soldiers afraid, Putin's soldiers afraid of our soldiers when we're strong enough. If we are not strong enough, if we are empty,
they're
if
afraid.
our soldiers-
No, they're afraid. The Russian soldiers are afraid of Ukrainian soldiers when the Ukrainian soldiers are backed by American might, by American strength.
just empty. We can't defend our land. Today, he knows that we have all the world knows that we have meeting. Yes? Why
Yes.
he's using ballistic? Putin today using ballistic on our hospitals, schools, and etc. Ballistic. So he knows that we are here, and that President Trump is really have goodwill to stop this war. And you hear now the president. So why he's using? So he doesn't want to stop. He doesn't want. But I hope that
I
he will
don't
do
know
it.
if
Really
it's
will
Putin
do
that doesn't want to stop.
it. Security. When we speak about security guarantees, when the Europeans are ready for contingents, they need USA backstop. If there will not be United States, we will not never have any contingents, strong contingents from the Europeans, because they don't want to divide alliance, connection between the United States as the main and strongest ally and Europeans. And this is crucial, this is important. That's what we want to speak about very much. This is very important. And air defense. So air defense, really, we have big deficit with all these systems, and we need to provide this. We need it very much. Otherwise, Putin will never stop, and will go further and further. He doesn't want. He hates us. It's not about me. He hates Ukrainians. He thinks that we are not a nation. He thinks, and he shared these thoughts. I think maybe with your team also. I don't know, but with all the Europeans, in media, officially and not, he always said that there is no such country, such nation, such language, and such life like Ukrainian. No, he really doesn't respect all the Ukrainians.
What would
and he
Zelensky
wants
have the
to
U.S.
destroy
do?
us.
Just permanently set up shop in Ukraine
you're right,
and just
Mr. President.
no.
That's 2%.
Ah.
This document, maybe other documents, it's a very good start, very good, but it will not enough to stop this person.
Should Russia pay to rebuild Ukraine?
Mr. President, under these
Should Russia pay to
I asked
rebuild Ukraine?
They have to pay.
this question.
This is the rule. This is rule of the war. Who began during all the centuries, all the history? This is the rule of the war. Who began, those pay.
Do you agree
This
with
is the rule. Putin began this war. He has to pay all money for innovation. He has to pay. Of course, some Russian assets have.
So Zelensky's going to try and get money from Putin to pay for the Ukrainian reconstruction? Oh man, isn't that part of like? Look, I am not a historian. I don't know these things, but isn't that part of like what happened with why World War II was allowed to happen? Because Germany was utterly like decimated in World War I by economic or like. They basically had to pay sanctions or for reconstruction of the rest of Europe, and therefore their economy was so broken and so weak and the people were just looking for some kind of respite from that. Isn't that like, oh, no. Ukraine, oh, man. There is no international mom, right? There is no, and what I mean by that is like when siblings fight, and then the mom comes in and is like, no, you go to your room, you clean up this mess. There is no international mom. I know that people want the U.S. to be that international parent, and in a lot of ways we are, but no, just because you think it would be fair for Russia to repay and to pay for rebuilding doesn't mean they're going to. And trying to force them to do so is only going to cause more problems. Wow. No.
In Europe, about 300 billion. We can use them. We can use for innovation and buy military support from the United States also. We can do it, but it's not enough. It's not enough.
Under these circumstances, do you envision a trilateral summit with Putin and President Zelenskyy?
Wait 1 second.
I asked this question that you didn't like because I wanted to know if you want to position yourself in the middle between Russia and
Yes.
Ukraine or on the Ukraine side.
No, I'm in the middle. I want to solve this thing. I'm for
Stuck
I'm
in
for
the
both. I
middle
want to get it
again.
solved. And it's wonderful to speak badly about somebody else, but I want to get it solved. If we can solve it, great. If we can't solve it, they're going to have to fight it out, and who knows what's going to happen. But I want to see it get solved.
May I follow up?
They're going to have to fight it out. Not we are going to have to fight it out. They're going to have to fight it out.
One more question about U.S. troops in Europe. After Russian invasion of Ukraine, your predecessor sent additional troops to Eastern Europe, including Poland, my country.
Yeah.
Are you committed to keeping these troops on the eastern flank of NATO?
No. Just say no.
In the future?
Just say no.
I'm very committed to Poland. I think Poland has really stepped up and done a great job for NATO. They, as you know, they paid more than they had to.
Trump
They
is
are
committed
one
to
of
Poland
the
because
finest
Poland
groups of people I've ever
is
known.
very much like MAGA
I'm very
country.
committed to Poland.
What about Baltics?
Poland's in a
Very
tough
much,
neighborhood, you know?
very much a
Baltics,
MAGA
Baltics.
country. Poland is. That's
the
why
Baltics,
Trump likes it.
They got a lot of. It's a tough neighborhood too, but we're committed. We're going to be very committed, and we're committed to NATO. But NATO has to step up, and the Europeans have to step up more than they have. And I want to see them equalize because they are in for far less than we're in, and they should be at least equal. You understand that? Why is the United States? We have an ocean in between. Why is the United States in for so much more money and other things?
A beautiful
As
ocean
Europe. With that being said,
separating
as
the
you
United
said,
States and
they've
Europe.
also been obviously very helpful. But we have put in far more than they have. And I think they should equalize.
Mr. President,
Yeah, please, go ahead.
Ask you about the agreement again today. What changed between the first time that Secretary Bessent gave President Zelenskyy the agreement and today for the signing?
We made a deal. So
What was the
I'm just-
deciding factor?
I'm a business person. We made a deal. That's what changed.
Okay, fair
I
enough.
didn't
They
think
made
we
a
were going to
deal.
make a deal. And
Ooh, excuse me, guys. Sorry.
we ended
That
up
was
making
disgusting.
the deal, so that changed.
Ooh.
Mr. President, when and how do you envision a trilateral summit with President Zelenskyy and Putin?
I don't know,
under
but
these
well, they
circumstances?
don't like each other. I can tell you that.
Oh no, you get
They do
that.
not
Yeah.
like each other. It's not a love match, and it's unfortunate. That's why you're in this situation. The United States should not have allowed this to happen. Okay, the United States, run by a man that didn't know much. I'll give
Any
you that much.
opportunity he has to
Run by
trash
an
Biden,
incompetent
he's going to
person,
take it.
Very incompetent person should never have allowed this to happen.
Yes.
I've stopped wars. I've stopped many wars. My people will tell you, I stopped wars that nobody ever heard about. I stopped wars before they ever started.
Many wars.
You can
They've
look
been
at some
stopped
of,
because of President
some
Trump.
of, I could give you a lot of nations that would tell you right now they were probably going to war. I could tell you right now there's a nation thinking about going to war on something that nobody in this room has ever even heard about. Two smaller nations, but big, still big. And I think I've stopped it. But this should have never happened.
Mr. President.
About sorry, just a second. About any negotiations. First of all, I want really to tell you, and I think that everybody understands that Ukraine, more than Ukrainians, nobody wants to stop this war. But at the future, any negotiations, it's understandable that two sides of the war, not Russia and the United States, because this is not the war between Russia and the United States. This is war of Russia against Ukraine and Ukrainian.
Is it? Is it though? Is it really? Is it really? Really?
People. So these two sides will be at the anyway will be at the negotiation table. Then of course United States, like the strongest partner of the Ukraine, and of course Europe. I think Europe is very important. I want to speak about it with the president. Yes, Europe is very important for us because we really defend Europe for today. All Europeans really recognize that we are defending line, and they have real life, and our people are dying. That's why they help us.
Are you
and
sure
also,
about that?
it's about the needs.
Really?
Yes, between, like the president said, you have big, nice ocean. Yes, between us. But if we will not stay, Russia will go further to Baltics and to Poland, by the way. But first to the Baltics. It's understandable for them because they've been in the USSR. You know,
that feels like fear mongering. I mean that feels manipulative. He doesn't know that Russia's going to go to Poland. I think I can't really speak to it, but if I was going to ballpark or gut, like give you a gut feeling, he's not going to go to Poland. He's just not.
No, they've been one of the republics of the USSR, and Putin wants to bring them back to his empire. It's a fact. And when he will go there, if we will not stay, you will fight. Your American soldiers, it doesn't matter, do you have ocean or not, your soldiers will fight.
Mr. President, would you be willing to visit Ukraine, maybe Kyiv or Odessa, which is not...
Wait, did he just like commit?
Your American soldiers, it's a fact. And when he will go there, if we will not stay, you will fight. Your American soldiers.
Okay, no, so he's probably talking about like
I don't
I
wanna
think
talk
it's
about
Article
Odessa.
5 of NATO,
Let's not talk
of the
about
NATO
Odessa. I
treaty
wanna
or
talk
something
about
like
making a deal.
if one NATO member gets attacked, then everybody comes to their defense. I think that's probably what he's talking about.
Getting peace. We don't have to talk about Odessa, but a lot of cities have been destroyed. A lot of cities that are not recognizable. There's not a building standing.
No,
And a lot of
you have to come,
things have
Mr.
to
President, you
happen.
have to come and to look. No. We have very good cities. Yes, a lot of things have been destroyed, but mostly cities alive, and people work, and children go to school. Sometimes it's very difficult. Sometimes closer to front line, children have to go to underground schools or online, but we live. Ukraine is fighting, and Ukraine lives. This is very important. And maybe it's Putin sharing this information that he destroyed us. No, he lost 700,000 people, 700,000 soldiers. He lost everything. Yes. So,
Mr. President, more. I like to call it.
Please, go ahead.
When did you last speak with President Putin? And what did he say?
A couple of days ago.
And what did he tell you that gave you the assurance that he wanted peace?
Well, that's what I do. My whole life is deals. I know pretty good. And I've known him for a long time. I've dealt with him for a long time. He had to suffer through the Russia hoax. You know, Russia was a hoax.
Russia.
I think that he wants to make a deal, and he'd like to see it end. That's all I do. That's what I do. My whole life, that's what I do, is make deals. And I'm in the middle of a mess.
I would
because
hope
this is
so.
a real mess.
I just don't get the impression that that Putin is this maniac who just wants to take over the world and doesn't care at what cost. I just don't get that impression. Am I saying he's a great leader and should be, the king of Russia forever? No, but I just don't get the impression he's a maniac.
It's a very dangerous one. If this doesn't get solved now, it's not going to get solved for a long time. So I hope we're going to get it solved. In the back, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. Prime Minister Starmer claims repeatedly that his government believes in free speech and was not engaged in censorship. But his country's government arrests people for memes and thought crimes, and even more worrisome is pressuring American companies to censor Americans on his behalf. How can he be a reliable, trustworthy partner when he says things that are demonstrably false on such an important topic?
Well, we actually spoke to him about that yesterday, and we thought they took it very, very much too far. JD was very strong on it. So was I. So was Marco, and we've been speaking to him about it. Marco, would you like to say something about that?
We have concerns, obviously, with the conduct of those, particularly as it impacts Americans. And there's real concern that American speech, which is online, could fall into the hands of British or any country's jurisdiction. And so this is a point the Vice President made of Munich, and I think it's a very compelling one that what unites us with Europe, as much as anything else, is these shared values, and one of them being free speech.
Yeah.
And so if Americans are threatened by it, we're going to need to take action in that regard.
Yeah, we should. I think maybe later on today, because I'm going to stream probably this afternoon. Maybe later today, we will explore exactly what the UK has done with free speech. And I'm curious to know. I'm curious because, you know, you get into these bubbles and you hear all these things about, like, you know, grandma's being arrested for posting a meme on Facebook. Okay. But they leave out that the grandma, you know, murdered or you know, you leave out these important details, just these important details that are just left out.
A very important question.
We spoke about this in detail with the Prime Minister, the Foreign Secretary, and others at lunch yesterday, and I know that Secretary of Commerce Lutnick followed up in private meetings
can't
last
say the
night.
M-word.
This is
I
really
said the
important.
M-word.
We believe Americans have the right to speak their mind, even if we in this room disagree with them. They have the right to speak their mind in the public square, which is often online these days, and we're going to defend that right as it pertains to American companies and American citizens vigorously if we have to. I do think that under the President's leadership, we're going to find common ground with our friends and speech in this country, and we'll fight for American citizens.
Mr. President, on the deal, is there any other oil and gas component to the deal? Is it all critical?
A little bit. We'll see.
On LNG?
Talking about.
Is there any agreement from Ukraine to purchase U.S. LNG as part of the deal, or is that on the table?
In a couple of days ago, just to be clear, that's a new call, not the one that you.
I've spoken to him on numerous occasions.
Okay. And how was the latest call? What did you discuss? How did it go?
Are you serious with that question? It went well. I think we're going to have a deal.
On the minerals deal, Mr. President, some of those minerals are in the eastern
Are you
Ukraine,
serious
not
with that
far from the
question?
front line,
You don't know what
in
we
areas
talked
that
about.
Russia has
You
occupied.
can't guess what
Will
we
you
talked
direct
about.
Putin to withdraw his forces from those areas if there's U.S. interest?
Well, we'll take a look at the time. We have a lot of area. It's a very big area we're talking about, so we'll be protected. The agreement will protect. I just told you, I don't. You know, they ought to focus on CNN surviving because CNN's got such low ratings. I don't think they're going to survive.
Poland was under Russian control for decades after the Second World War.
Yes.
When I was a kid, I looked at the United States not only as a most powerful country, richest country in the world, the country that has great music, great movies, great muscle
Okay,
cars.
get to the
But
question.
also, they are worried that you align yourself too much with Putin. What's your message for them?
Well, if I didn't align myself with both of them, you'd never have a deal. You want me to say really terrible things about Putin and then say, "Hi, Vladimir, how are we doing on the deal?" That doesn't work that way. I'm not aligned with Putin.
He's not
I'm not
wrong.
aligned with anybody. I'm aligned with the United States of America.
Yes.
And for the good of
Yes,
the world.
aligned with
I'm
America,
the world.
baby.
And I want to get this thing over with. You see the hatred he's got for Putin. It's very tough for me to make a
it's
deal. That kind of,
palpable.
he's got tremendous hatred. And I understand that, but I can tell you the other side isn't exactly in love with, you know, him either. So it's not a question of alignment. I'm aligned with
Why
the
can't
world.
these two just
I
get
want to get
along?
the thing set. I'm aligned with Europe. You've ever seen?
Stood up at press conferences and talked tough about Vladimir Putin, and then Putin invaded Ukraine and destroyed a significant chunk of the country. The path to peace and the path to prosperity is maybe engaging in diplomacy. We tried the pathway of Joe Biden
All
of
right,
thumping
I've seen this. I don't know if we saw
ask
this yesterday.
Sure.
Yeah. Okay. So he occupied our parts, big parts of Ukraine, part of East and Crimea. So he occupied it on 2014. So during a lot of years, so I'm not speaking about just Biden, but those time was Obama, then President Obama.
Yeah,
then
we saw
President
this.
Trump,
This is
then
about where
President
we picked
Biden,
up
now
last
President Trump, and God bless, now President Trump will stop him. But during 2014, nobody stopped him. He just occupied and took. He killed people. You know what the contact line?
2015.
Yeah. I
2014.
remember when Trump incorrectly corrected Zelensky and then says, I wasn't here in 2014. Well, you weren't there in 2015 either, Trump. But that's where we picked up. And honestly, like I think this is a 50-minute video. And so for 40 minutes, I think the conversation was rational, cordial, maybe even friendly, but it was definitely respectful. I do think that Zelensky was trying to be a little manipulative and obviously just kind of had little patience for any kind of sympathy for Russia, which is understandable. But like Trump said, if you're going to come up with a deal, you have to have some kind of understanding with the other person. You can't just demonize the other person and believe that they're Satan incarnate, and then you're going to make a deal with them. So I get that. So I think a lot, it seems after watching this whole thing, the story is a little, people are saying that Trump was horrible and disrespectful the whole time. No, he wasn't. Nor was Zelensky terrible the whole time. Zelensky's impatience or intolerance for any kind of friendliness towards Russia is definitely he has none, and that was Clearly obvious. So, yeah. I don't like Zelensky. I think Zelensky wants this war. I do. I mean, that might not be a hot take. That might be, call me whatever, but I get the impression that Zelensky seems like he wants this war. I'm not sure why, which makes me question my conclusion. Why would he want it unless he really was like scamming money from the U.S. in order to enrich himself or enrich his country? I guess that's plausible. Or he just really, really hates Russia. That's also, or there's also, you could consider the fact that maybe staying at war with Russia keeps him in power, right? Because like right now, like if things are suddenly peaceful, then because I think right now Ukraine's like under military rule or something like that, and they haven't had elections, and even though they've been due for elections for a while, Zelensky keeps canceling them. Maybe that's another thing we can check up on later, whether that actually is true. But that's what I've heard. Whether it's true, it seems plausible. So and that would seem like a reason why Zelensky wants this war to keep going. The longer the war goes, the longer he stays in power. The longer he stays in power, the longer he assures his continuing in power. So that's just my take on it. Let me know in the comments what your take is, and I will see you again probably this afternoon, but we'll talk. Have a great day. That's it. Goodbye.